Hello, I'm Tenka and I'll be commentating for Trickster's run of To the Top, all levels extended. Time begins the moment he takes the checkpoint in the first level.
Checkpoint. To use the checkpoint.
And begin.
Start.
Okay, so To the Top is a fast-paced virtual reality platformer made by Electric Hat Games. The aim of the game is to get to the end of every level as fast as possible. The game also has other features such as collectibles, but we will be ignoring them for the purposes of this run. In other runs such as any percent, they become a factor to unlocking levels as fast as possible. But in the all levels run, we start with a completely unlocked save file and go through every level as quick as possible.
Level start.
Okay, so at the end of this level, he's going to utilize the menu to skip a cinematic. The end of the level will normally put you into a cinematic level, which would cost somewhere around 30 to 40 seconds. That's saved by doing this. And now we'll be entering overhangs. This level brings in a mechanic where you're supposed to walk along the ceiling. But we're going to do it a lot faster than that and jump along the ceiling. Now at the start of the game, at the start of the level, there's actually a sign that says you can't do this. But we figured out that by tilting your head or your body a certain way, you can redirect the upward momentum of your jump so that it moves away from the ceiling instead of into it, and that makes the ceiling jumps possible. You're going to see him utilize this throughout the run a fair bit on certain levels. Okay, so the next level coming up is called Slide. Now there is a section at the start where he's going to try to jump over the wall, and he's going to try. What he's going to try and do is he's going to jump in such a way that he'll double jump, where the second jump will be at the maximum length of his pointers, and that's going to increase his height and allow him to get over the wall. Oh, he missed it the first time. He got it the second time. The funny thing about that wall is that this is the 2.0 patch of the game. In the original 1.0 patch, that wall was slightly higher, and you couldn't do that trick normally unless you ran across a long play area, which would only be accessible to a certain number of people. After talking with the developers, they decided to change that and lower the wall so that anybody can do it. Something's worth noting about the way that the jumping mechanic works in this game is that in order to get to maximum speed, each consecutive jump increases your speed up to a maximum of 5 jumps. So once you jump 5 times quickly, you're at maximum speed. So what you'll often see him do is do lots of really quick jumps to build up that momentum, and then keep jumping all the time as quick as possible to keep that momentum going. If at any time you stop, or if you take a checkpoint, that momentum is removed so that you then start moving a lot slower, so that you have to quickly jump 5 times again to get it back. And this becomes a kind of real risk versus reward scenario with the checkpoints, as the checkpoints, they not only do they save your position in case you die, but also they drag you over a fair amount of distance instantaneously, which is a very fast mechanic to use to your advantage. However, if you can't get back up to 5 jumps really quickly afterwards, the payoff will not be worth it. So there are times to take a checkpoint and times to bypass them. So here in Wall Run, these zippy surfaces, these surfaces with blue arrows like this, they just indicate that if you jump off it, it's going to automatically boost your speed a rather large amount.
Level start.
Okay, so in this level is called Bridge, and when he gets to the top of this bridge area, there's going to be a bunch of trucks that are moving past that he's going to have to jump off. Now the thing about these trucks is that you would ideally like for there to be a truck there when you arrive, but the way that any moving object works in this game is that they are on a set animation cycle, and that animation cycle starts from the moment you load. So since in an all levels run or in any full game playthrough, they're going to start in the same position every time, they're going to be in the same place every time when you get there. So it pretty much negates all the RNG related to the moving platforms. Oh, alright, so what Trickster's going to try to do here is he's going to try to do a corner bump off the left side. He got it, but it wasn't quite as good as you can get it. Basically what he did was he bumped off the pixel perfect section of that corner, and it caused him to fling forward. You can do it a lot faster so that it flings you forward into the air and sends you sailing, but in this case he kind of got a rough one, and he merely just sort of landed on the top of that slope. Doing that trick will save you about 3 seconds. From Dead Man's Dive. Here's your first lava level for the game, and obviously if he touches the lava he dies. Let's avoid that at all costs. Hopefully we can get there in time for the early cycle on the minecart. He's a little bit too early. Okay, coming up on cracks. This is a level that introduces these yellow blocks, and what happens with these is they start to crumble the moment you touch them, so you can't hold on to them. But that's really not an issue here because we don't want to be holding on to anything too long anyway. Okay, coming towards the end of this level, there's a really difficult section where you'll have to do a series of ceiling jumps and then shortcut upwards into the top area. Just got it there. It was a little bit rough, but he could have done it a lot better.
Complete. Level start.
It's probably worth mentioning about the way that I mentioned before about how the jumps work. Well, the thing is, you can, for every jump that you do, you can slow down a little bit depending on how quickly you pull the triggers. The idea is you want to pull the triggers pixel perfect the moment that you hit the surface. If you are holding it on for even just a millisecond, the game will pull you slightly towards that surface. You'll barely notice it, but it all adds up. So what Trickster is going to be doing throughout the run is making sure that every single trigger is done pixel perfect so that he will have 0 time held onto any surface. Oh, okay, got the perfect spinner skip there. And he'll be going for the gap skip in a second. So what he's going to do here is he's going to jump off the wall and then use aerial redirection to make sure that he lands. Perfect. Doing that skip there saves around 30 or 40 seconds. Okay, so coming up on Giant Robot. This level is a level with a giant robot in it, and when you jump onto it, it starts to move. Now, one peculiarity with the game is that when there is a moving platform, when you're holding onto anything that is moving, if that moving thing contacts with your head at any point in time, even though you're on it, the game will kill you and you'll be forced to go to the last checkpoint. So hopefully we can avoid that here. Giant Robot is particularly notorious for doing that. Oh, looks like he got hit by it. See, this is a case where, because the entire robot itself is moving, if you contact with any surface at all, also climbing up it, it can cause that effect. Okay, coming up in Convoy. There's really not much to this level. It's one of the levels that casual players tend to find very difficult, but it really all it comes down to is a bunch of perfected fundamental mechanics. Just doing good jumps, making sure you get the right distance. There's not much more to it, so this would be a good time to read out donations. Okay, so coming up with cube rotate. This level's notorious for ending runs. There are a lot of flipping platforms and rotating platforms. Even though nothing is on a random cycle, everything is fixed and animated, it still is very difficult to do, particularly towards the end where there's a section we call the death flippers, and you'll see when we get to it. Part of the difficulty comes not so much from the fact that it's hard, but from the fact that one death will cause you to sort of get frustrated and then make more mistakes and then get another death and then another death, and before you know it the run's over. So hopefully we can avoid that here. Luckily to avoid any deaths in that first section. Now these spinning donuts, if you release when it is turning, you will... oh, he's got stuck here. That's awkward. But yeah, if you release when it is spinning, you'll actually carry that momentum with you and it'll fling you. So given the right circumstance, you can actually use it to your advantage, but it's very difficult to do so consistently. Okay, just got that. It's coming up on the death flippers now. Hopefully you can get through here without dying any times. Okay, he missed the fast cycle, but just got it. He's good from here on. Okay, on to Honey. Honey is a pretty straightforward level. Probably the only real interesting thing about it is that it's more of a artistically designed level than a mechanically designed level. For example, instead of jumping on blue surfaces, you're jumping on this orange surface, which indicates that it's the honey, sticky honey. Yeah, for the most part it's just jumping along the structures, trying to get perfect triggers. There's probably enough time for about 2 minutes of donations here. Okay, coming up in cannons. This is a level where you'll have all these cannons shooting rockets out of them. We're going to jump and ride those rockets. Now, funny thing about all these rockets is that depending on which one you take, all the animations sync up. And so you really don't want to miss one, because once you do, it starts to desync and they get slower and slower progressively the more you miss it. So hopefully you can get through without missing any. Perfect timing. Okay, coming up on one of the hardest skips in the game is, we call it the rocket jump. What he's going to do is he's going to hold one rocket with one hand, one with the other, and then try to use that momentum. He's trying to use that momentum to skip a large portion of this level. Unfortunately, he missed it the first time. Trying again. Okay, he got it the second time. So the funny thing about that is that you need to release both triggers exactly correctly. You can't, there's no room for error. They must be frame perfect when you release them, otherwise you will be sent in the wrong direction. Credit to Dormaterino for first discovering that skip back in 1.0, and Nilatark for figuring out how to do it again in 2.0. Coming up on Railroad Crossing, it's not too much to this level. There's a few sections that animate when you get to it. For the most part, it's all basic fundamentals from here. It's probably enough time for about a minute of donations. Okay, coming up on Sky Jumps, the next level. This is a level that introduces a bunch of platforms that sort of bounce you around in the sky. There's these flat platforms which will bounce you directly upwards, as well as these big orbs of sky, of wind. Now what you're going to see him do is he's going to use his camera to reorientate himself in mid-air. Now something I haven't yet explained is that there are two ways which the game decides how to move you in the air. The moment that you leave the surface, it will propel you in the direction that you're looking, but also it will try to push you in whatever direction you're looking whilst you're falling as well. So you can use the camera to redirect yourself in midair and use it in ways to sort of bleed off momentum or push yourself on a certain angle. So as you saw him do earlier. Becomes particularly important this level, especially towards the end here. This section can be really tricky if you don't direct yourself in the air correctly. Okay, lock and key. we bring in a sort of a ball mechanic where you can throw this ball around. The idea is you want to put the ball into these keyholes to unlock the next section. Version 1.0 had a really strange glitch where you could glitch out the locks and go through and set off all the locks and then go back through and play the entire thing unlocked. But that was only in individual level runs. And for now, you want to look for him doing lots of quick ball throws to try to get the ball where he wants to, and then jump in between. Something about the ball throwing mechanics are a little bit tricky in this game as well. They're not quite as intuitive as you'd expect, but they do allow you to do some interesting things, such as really long throws, if done correctly. Like that. Now it is actually possible to actually get the ball all the way to that last platform immediately, but Trickster's not going to try to do that here. He's going to just play it safe and just get it in the easy way. Now, the next level is called Skate. It introduces a green slidey surface where you're supposed to just hold the button down and slide along the surface. However, there is an exploit where if you just simply keep spamming the trigger to grab, it'll pull you along even faster. And this will happen even if you're going at a fast rate. It can be a little bit annoying at times, but basically that mechanic is in there to sort of solve if you for any reason get stuck on the slide surface and just can't go anywhere. So they were looking into fixing it, but they couldn't figure out how to do that without sort of hindering casual players. So the most optimal way is to keep spamming triggers on the green surface to go faster. So that was Skate. Now we're coming up on the next level, Skate Park. And if you thought this trigger spam was annoying already, then you have to get ready to do it a lot more. For most of the part, this entire level is slide stepping with the trigger spam. There's probably enough time for some donations here. Maybe 1 minute worth. Okay, this next level is called Fly, and it's called that because you fly. This level gives you a jetpack and sort of allows you to fly around a rather large area. This also combines the mechanic from Lock and Key, where you have to unlock these 3 keyholes. The exit to this level is in the center of the entire level, and we got that pretty quickly. Yeah, in order to reach the exit, you have to put down the 3 locks. So right there, he actually pressed the quick reset button to reset to the last checkpoint. Basically, that first checkpoint you take, it kind of acts as a save spot. And since it's the last checkpoint you took, you know, if you simply die or use the quick reset feature, you go straight back there immediately, rather than having to fly all the way back manually. Using that saves somewhere around 5-10 seconds.
Complete. Level start.
Okay, Piston Central introduces these piston blocks, which kind of bounce you upwards. Now these are they kind of more slow you down than anything, unless you're going up a straight vertical surface. But as you can see, they're kind of strung together, and you really need to just sort of jump through them. Okay, now towards the end here, there's a large slide with a loop in it, but there is a way to skip the entire loop section and cut straight to the end goal by sort of sailing off the tip as it rolls over, which you'll see in a second. So it's going to roll upwards, and Trickster's going to sail off the edge of it and then redirect himself in the air towards the exit.
Finish.
That trick saves like 5 seconds.
Go.
Okay, Ringer is one of the hardest levels in the game. It has these ring sections which are very difficult to navigate, and they also have these little red laser beams that will run around and attack you. Oh, you missed that. So what Trix is trying to do here is he's trying to snap look back, and doing that, since, as I explained before, the game redirects your momentum based on where you're looking, doing that for just a second will simply bleed off just enough speed so that when he got to that underslidey surface, he's going at the correct angle so that he can latch onto it at maximum speed. If you don't do it correctly, like if you don't do that at all, what tends to happen is that you'll come to a complete stop the moment you grab the surface. So in this next ring section, he's just going to jump around the outside, and since the outside is spinning in the direction he wants to go, it's actually propelling him faster as he jumps along it. And the final ring section looks extremely intimidating, but when you figure it out, there's actually two or three sections, which are stationary and don't actually move. He's just going to pick those exact points to jump from. Okay, up to Chop Shop. And this level is one of the most difficult levels in the game, for sure. There is a major skip coming up, where Trickster is going to skip an entire section that would require him to jump over these buzz saws, and they would slow him down normally. These red-blue surfaces will force you to stop, force you to drop every time it turns red. So, okay, here we go, here comes the skip. Nice, he got it. Doing that skip saves around 30 to 40 seconds. Now this last section is also very difficult. You pretty much can't jump. You've got to quickly latch onto every blue surface you can see. You almost dropped it there. Okay, you made it. He's fine. Rock Monster. This level is, as it sounds, it has a monster in it, a rock monster, and it's supposed to chase you. However, we're going to leave it in the dust, and you're barely going to be able to see it. You may be able to hear it though. Now come up with the first lava pit. Once again, all these balls are on set animation cycles, so the pattern is kind of somewhat fixed. But like the cannons, if you don't get the first cycle, they kind of desync. So it's important to really get that first pattern down. Even if you do get desynced from the normal cycle, there is kind of a noticeable pattern in the way they move that you can sort of get used to. Okay, the second lava pit. Got through it fine. A bit close. What do you got there? Okay, the next level would actually be a cinematic, so we're going to use the main menu to skip it. I'm going to go straight to credits. Now, originally in the version 1.0, this was the last level in the game, but the 2.0 patch brought in 5 new bonus levels, which are all much harder than normal levels. And all the levels extended run includes those bonus levels. So we will be doing them after we complete the credits level. So the funny thing about the credits level is that the way it works out, it was really just sort of a fun idea of the designers to include this as a playable credits sequence. But the way it worked out is for speedrunning, this actually becomes one of the most challenging levels in the game because attaching to each of the surfaces of those letters requires such precision that it becomes really challenging. Got through with a 49, that's actually really good. Okay, on to the bonus levels now. First level, pick a path. This level is a level that has many branching paths that unlock. So for each section that you go to, you'll reach a section with a ball and 2 keyholes. Depending on which keyhole you put the ball in, a certain part of the level will unlock. And then that will go to another section with a ball and 2 keyholes with another 2 branches, and then that will go to another one again. So all up, there is about 8 different routes you can take through this level that are completely different. And the one that we've obviously decided on is we found to be the fastest so far. Okay, on to Break It. Break It introduces a kind of a reverse lock and key mechanic where the balls start in the keyholes and you have to remove them in order to open up areas. The first couple we kind of have to do, but as we get towards the end, there are a few of them that we can actually skip completely. Okay, so coming up next is a section where it would require you to unlock those elevators and find your way up, but jumping around the side here, there's a secret path where we can pretty much skip that entire section. It does require a bit of precision to jump on these very small nodes. Okay, now coming up again, there is another big skip where if we jump at the right angle off this ledge, we can sail past an entire section here on the right. So that entire complex area to the right there, we're going to skip completely just by jumping over here. And doing that saves around 30 or 40 seconds. Okay, this next section is pretty harrowing. You need to remove those balls in one fell swoop as you jump past them. If you miss any of them, the last checkpoint we took was back halfway through the level, so you really don't want to mess this part up. Well, that was a bit tricky towards the end there, but he got there. Okay, spikes. This level really just doesn't let up throughout the entire thing. It's very difficult from start to finish. If he touches any of the spikes, he dies. If he touches any of the black things that appear, he dies. This level is quite notorious for ending runs, or at least killing off a lot of time save. Ooh, kind of lost his grip there. Okay, coming up one of the harder sections, these spinning blades that sort of chop you up. Should you be jumping in there, should they come past and hit you, you really kind of want to hope that they're in the right position when you get there. Luckily he didn't miss anything and he caught the correct part of the cycle. Okay, looks like he made it. Okay, the second last level, a maze. There's not too much to say about this level, other than there's a section in the middle that forces the player to wait a fair bit. But yeah, for the most part, it's all fundamentals from here, so you can probably have about a minute of donations. Oh, he just made that. Okay, it's the last level, kitchen sink. So this level's called kitchen sink because it takes pretty much all of the mechanics that we've played throughout the entire game and then puts them all into one level. So this first section here is pretty difficult. Is to make sure to jump off the right coloured node of the ceiling. Nice, got it. Okay, this last section, he gets the jetpack and he has to fly through a pipe of sorts. Okay, we'll be coming up on time in a minute as you reach the goal area for this level. Oh, he got stuck. Okay, time's coming up. And time.
Finish.
Okay, that is the all levels extended run for To the Top. Thanks for watching.